Hello and how you doing? And welcome back to Two Jagoffs. I am your host, Austin Cairns, joined here on Zoom with,
Nicholas Brown.
and welcome back to Two Jagoffs. And if you're listening or watching at home, you're probably wondering what the hell is happening. It is a Sunday. Austin's on Zoom. He's joined with Nick Brown, and there's no special guest. What is going on Two Jagoffs? Well, I'm here to tell you we are trying something new this week. Don't worry, Interview Sunday's not going anywhere. This is just a temporary hold. We are going to do something that I've been wanting to do for about a year now. Now, as you all know, Ask Austin Anything, a fan favorite, I wanted to take a bit of a break from. Not because I don't appreciate your questions, but A, we weren't really getting any. And B, I pretty much answered almost anything I could under the sun. That's where Nick Brown comes into play today. Of course, Nick Brown is my co-host of the Steel City Commuters podcast. He's now an honorary Jagoff of this podcast, and he's even appeared on it 3 times in the past. So, Nick, I'm going to formally welcome you to Two Jagoffs. And before I bounce this over to you, what we are doing today is 10 questions that I, Austin Cairns, have never answered before. Now, I've always had the chance to look over all the Ask Austin Anything questions before I went on air, which I felt was a little unfair because I wasn't exactly able to give a fair answer and right off the cuff. So that's where Nick Brown comes in today. He's going to give me 10 questions that I've never seen before, never looked at, never even helped him with, and I'm going to answer them live on this podcast. Now, Nick, please don't trap me today. Hopefully this goes well. I trust you enough. I'm going to let you take over Two Jagoffs. I'm no offense to Lucas carries, but Nick is going to kind of carry this podcast right now. So, Nick, it's good to see you, my friend. Thank you for hopping on Zoom so late. How's everything going with you?
It's good to see you on Zoom. Who knows what happened to a Sunday interview? Everything happens for a reason, they say, Austin. So I don't know if this is like a formal welcome to the team all before, two Jagoffs live. I don't know. It feels good though to be with you.
It does. It does. Thank you so much.
Well, let's just get right to it because I got some good ones. And I'm not gonna trap you. As a friend, as a,
Thank
co-host,
you.
I can't
Thank
do
you.
that. But I know you transferred to Point Park from CCAC.
Mhm.
And you also went to Carlington High School. Each of those transitions, there's always something that you leave behind. So, what is one thing that you left behind in your transition from Carlington to CCAC and then from CCAC to Point Park?
That is a great question. Okay, so my growth from high school to community college to university, I like to break down as 3 different Austins. Okay. Carlington Austin, and I know you make fun of me for this all the time. Mr. G said it best in the interview. I was the shy and quiet kid in high school, which I really was, believe it or not. I was insecure. I didn't believe in myself. I knew what I wanted to do. I had an idea of it, but I wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready. So when I left Carlington and went to CCAC for my first time, I took a step out of my shell. So the one thing that I would say I left behind was my lack of confidence. I left behind my true self in a sense, saying that, okay, let me step out of my shell and put myself into an uncomfortable situation. Starting this podcast was one thing I've done. Going to college, I was in a relationship at the time. I had friends that are no longer in my life. All that was one thing I took into my next chapter. But the one biggest thing I'd say I left behind was I left behind my shyness, if that makes sense. Now, leaving CCAC and coming to Point Park is different. A, I left my ex behind. B, I left some friends behind. And C, I left some other people in my life behind that wasn't exactly on the same pace. And again, it's not that anything bad happened with anybody in my life. It's more of the fact that I went my way, they went their way. So my transfer from from Carlington to CCAC and CCAC to Point Park, I left behind a lot of different things and a lot of different people. But it may be the man I am today.
Building on top of that, what is
Yes.
one story that you would be afraid to tell
Oh,
from each
oh.
of the experiences that you've had from high school to CCAC to then Point Park? Because there's a different environment in each of them, especially CCAC, being that's more what, online, like a hybrid style,
Yeah.
where Point Park is actually in person. I don't want to say like scariest you've ever been before, but what's one story that lingers in your mind that you will always remember wherever you go?
From Carlington or from CCAC?
From Carlington to CCAC, then to CCAC to Point Park, because
Oh,
I
okay.
want to make the connection because once you start at one place, your career also ends and starts at that place as well. So your career began at Carlington, but then you also had a career that ended at
Mhm.
Carlington, and same with CCAC, and Point Park is just starting. So what's a story that you can share from Carlington that maybe actually amazes some people that you actually would think is a negative, but it's actually a positive in your favor?
I would say announcing marching band was probably one of the things I left behind from Carlington because everybody knows me as a sports broadcaster, a wrestling commentator, someone that does everything sports. My first thing I ever called was surprisingly the halftime show for my local high school football team, Carlington. I was the voice of the Cougars, as they said, the MC for the halftime show. And that was kind of my foot in the door to actually calling the football game itself, to doing stats for basketball, to helping out Mr. G with his team. That was kind of my way in, which was also the kickstart to everything to come afterwards. So I personally look back on that and kind of cringe because I'm not really the marching band kind of person. I'm not really into the whole theater and musical background. But for my career, if you think about it, I wouldn't be where I am today without doing it, putting myself out there, again, doing something uncomfortable. So I would say marching band was the big thing from Carlington to CCAC. But in terms of CCAC to Point Park, I would say, oh, that's a good one. One of the one story that I could probably share was just my motivation going to classes. I mean, it takes a lot to wake up in the morning. You're at home, you don't live on campus, you're commuting, and I drove to CCAC every single day. So when I would drive there, I'd have to string together all my emotions. And afterwards, I'd go to Friendly Paws. I would go right to work right after my classes. So it's not like I had a break. Again, I was in a relationship at the time. So that does a mental strain on you. So yeah, I kind of went through a lot during that time in the sense that I had so much on my mind. My mind was so scrambled. But the one thing now that the positive thing that came out of that was now that I'm at Point Park, it made me more prepared. It made me more organized and it made me more well spoken.
Feel like this is more of a personal question because I've
That's
also
fine.
had I have also had these moments, especially little me. I've always thought I was going to be a broadcaster, specifically meteorology. And there is
Mhm.
a video I can confirm, Austin, that I think when I was 6 or 7 that has made its ways on Facebook of me in a green shirt and tie.
Oh, wow.
And I go back and listen to it, and I'm thinking, God, I don't even want to hear this self. So, given your career and what you've done, you've done wrestling, you've done
Yep.
basketball, you've done volleyball, lots of different colleges, Point Park related, Pitt related. And I ask this because we all do it. We all want to go back and hear ourselves again. So if your teenage self, because you are 21, what would your teenage self think of your commentary today? Would he mock it? And if so, what specific part would he mock? But what also would he admire from it and take from it to build to where you're at now?
I don't think he would mock it. I don't think he would believe it's me. If you want the honest truth, I don't think he would believe it's me. He would be like, there is no way. I would be shaking in my boots just to raise my hand in class to read from a chapter of a book. So to hear myself call a live sporting game for a notable college in Pittsburgh or a wrestling event, which is literally my passion, as you know, I would be shocked, but I don't think I would mock it at all. I might probably honestly cry of tears of joy, knowing that I made it, knowing that I'm doing something I love. A lot of people don't know this, Nick, but growing up, I used to play with like the little wrestling action figure toys in my room with my sister. And when we would be playing and making these fake matches with our wrestlers, I would be doing commentary. I would be sitting there on the side while me and my sister are playing with the wrestlers, and I would be actually calling the matches. So I was already calling matches well before I even so I always make the joke now with the 880 and IWC guys. I always say, man, I went from calling fake matches into my room to real wrestling matches with real wrestlers in real life. So it's a crazy 360 moment for me. But no, I don't think I would mock myself. I think I would be inspired and more motivated just by seeing what I'm doing.
And I also think too that when you transition from another college to, Point Park, there's a lot that you weigh.
Hmm.
And I think we kind of share the same views. I applied to one college, it was Point Park. I had that goal to get in, and I did get in. You've said before that it was your first and last option after CCAC. What made you so sure of that moment? And what part actually made you scared to apply to Point Park and actually get in? Because what happens if you didn't get into Point Park? What was that second
Right.
option like for you to stick around locally? Because family weighs a lot in that issues. And I think with your career and what you want to do in wrestling, Pittsburgh's your home. Pittsburgh is your home for wrestling, is your home for all the sports you want to commentate. Can you kind of
Mhm.
maybe walk through a personal moment that made you stick around at Point Park, but
Mhm.
specifically deeply after CCAC and why, what drove you to Point Park, but what like has knitted you to this community?
Well, to give more background context, I originally wanted to go to CCAC first to save money and to get my associate's degree at an affordable cost. It was the best situation for myself, for my parents, and for my current living state. So I'm blessed that I did that. But you nailed it. Excuse me. You put the nail in the coffin. Point Park was my first and last option. And the reason why I say that, I actually said it in my recent interview that I did with Point Park. I mean, you saw it. They did a POV TikTok. They did a whole webpage article on me. And when I was asked that exact same question, I'll give you the same answer. The connections that you can make with Point Park University is endless. Before I even shook a hand or met a single person at this university, just knowing that it's in walking distance of all three major sports teams, knowing the Hall of Fame lineup of alums that came out of Point Park, the Bob world, the Greg Browns of the world, the amount of folks within COPA and our dance programs that have gone on to Broadway and New York City and all over the country. I mean, I wanted to add my name to that list. I came from a small school, Carlington. The most notable name to come out was Bill Cower. The second most notable, right now, it's kind of me because I'm in the public right now. And I'm not just saying that the fashion and coincidence. I'm just saying that's how small my school is and how small it currently is. So being able to be at Point Park University has opened up so many doors and opportunities. And yes, don't get me wrong, I looked at other colleges, but Point Park was the one that I was dead set on. I'm a big Pitt guy. If Pitt had a broadcasting opportunity, I may have wanted to go there just because of my Pitt fandom, but I knew Point Park would be the best to get me career ready, which is why I chose here.
Speaking of, building yourself and putting yourself out there and building the brand that you are, each of us all have our little phrases. Specifically, I'm always swearing and I have my little chats and my little slurs and little knickknacks that I like to throw in there.
Yeah.
Phrases, catchphrases, rage bait questions, rage bait phases. What's one phrase or line that you've had forever that you just completely have gone you've given up on it because it's not wrong, but it just reminded, it's just not who you are. Because we always try to be ourselves, but when you stick around certain people, they try to like dawn on you and get into your head. What's something that you kind of just disregarded that you just say, that's just not who I am. This is who I am.
So wait, are you asking me what is something that I say all the time, or what is something that somebody says
What's
all
a
to me all the
phrase
time?
that you have always that you've like kind of pushed to the side because you've said to yourself, that's just not who I am.
Usually when people say, "Are you sure?" Because a lot of times people will just say, "Well, are you sure about that?" Or "Are you sure that's what you want to do?" And sometimes people are genuine about it. And over time, I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm sure. If I wasn't sure, I wouldn't be doing it." But then I just kind of disregard it. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here." So that would definitely be one. I'll tell you one of my signature cadences, because I know you and Lucas has the joke about the whole document of all the stuff I say. One of my go-to lines is if I have to be honest with you. I say that before like almost every sentence. I'll go, well, if I have to be honest with you, Nick,
Yes.
and then I go into my spiel. It's just something that I say naturally. And I know you pointed out in the beginning, and you point out every once in a while. You've been getting used to it now because you're like, okay, that's just Austin at being Austin now.
I was gonna say too, we also have that issue too, especially myself. I'm like, question mark, question mark, question mark, or I'm just so biased towards, are you
Yeah.
here yet? Like location. That's one for myself too. Where's your location? Is your location here? And I think we have grown from that, especially because we bounce off of each other. And
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear some of the phrases that we've retired. And I've been in the process of trying to write an Austin Cairns book, but I don't think that's ever going to get accomplished just because the phrases that we have said and the slurs and everything that we've retired.
Yeah. I also say I'm not gonna lie to you, but that's another one I say.
Really? You're going to actually tell me the truth? Why, I would hope so.
That's always your response.
Yes. All right. I want to move into like the commentary side of things
Yes.
because maybe I want to be Austin Cairns one day. Maybe there's someone down the road, little Johnny from, high school is looking at Austin Cairns. If someone actually played your commentary, your voice, and tried to portray Austin over a scene from a certain wrestling event, a certain point of view, day in a life video, what moment would sync perfectly? And why haven't you told that story yet?
Can you give me a little more context? I want to make sure I answer your question right. I just don't want to answer it wrong.
Yeah, so just like talking about commentary, certain events, if I were to actually try and portray you and live a day in
Yes.
your life and try to actually be Austin Cairns, how would I be able to sync that moment? How would I be able to portray Austin Cairns? What do I have to specifically do to actually sound like Austin and be like Austin?
You need to be a good person. You have to be a very good person. I try and strive myself on what my parents taught me at a very young age, and that was be a young, respectful gentleman. If you see a woman, hold the door for her. Hell, if you see anybody, hold the door for them. Use manners. Please. Thank you. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Treat authority with respect. And not only that, be genuine. Ask how somebody's day is going. Ask what you're up to. Ask if everything's okay. Ask if you can lend a helping hand because at the end of the day, you never know what someone's going through. So, being a genuine, kind person is what you have to be me. And if you're not that, you're never going to be me or any good person in real life. You also got to be a fan of wrestling, man. If you're not a fan of wrestling, you can't be Austin Cairns. I mean, Austin literally lives, breathes, and dies with wrestling. I mean, I'm at least at 2 or 3 events a week. That just goes to show how much I love this. And not only that, I'm watching clips on my phone. I'm singing wrestlers' theme songs and listening to them on my headphones when I'm on the bus or in the car. I'm saying catchphrases out of my ass like it's nothing. So you got to be a wrestling fan. You got to be a sports fan. But to really be me, if that's the question that you're asking, like if Nick Brown was trying to play Austin Cairns like a Glenn Powell kind of thing, like you're being an actor, you gotta enjoy life. I was at a state at one point in my life, and I won't get too personal, where I did not enjoy life. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I was not happy. I was not confident in myself. I looked in the mirror and I would literally go, ew. Like that's not who I want to be. I can look in the mirror and still kind of go, ew, if my hair's off or my face isn't shaved properly. But I can look in the mirror now and actually be like, I'm comfortable with that guy. That's Austin Carnes. I can actually listen to myself on recording perfectly fine now. You asked me that a couple years ago, I couldn't. So you got to be a good person. Be a good person.
What about also owning every NFL team in hats and also shirts? Because I surely don't have that amount of hats or
Well,
shirts.
on top of the needless spending, you can also eat like a complete fool because I do not have the best eating habits. And then you nailed Austin Carnes. Put cheese and bacon on everything, and you're Austin. You're literally me.
No tomatoes, no pickles,
Nope,
none of the relevant stuff.
nope, no plain Jane.
Speaking of commentary and wrestling, you've done your radio show in the past at Point Park. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of certain requirements that you have to stick to guideline wise is you're not allowed to swear, you're not allowed to mention this. You can't get too political. And even in podcasting too, there's a lot of moments that we regret and we misuse a word, misuse a saying. Is there a time that you've ever said something on air that you ever regret it and you want to like edit back, you want to take that time back? It happens to everybody. It happens daily. It happens on live TV. It's live TV, as I always say. Ever a moment like that?
I've dropped some F-bombs that I regret. I mean, everybody actually knows this one. The infamous episode 3 lore of Two Jagoffs. It was one of our first ever inside jokes. This was well before you even came in my life, Nick. Episode 3, literally the third episode of this podcast, doesn't exist anymore because of what I said. Let's just say when I was formally recording with my team in this bedroom, actually, right behind me, there is a stain on my carpet. And the reason why there's a stain on my carpet is because we were huddled up against the table and I spilled my coffee and my coffee spilled everywhere. And keep in mind, we're doing like our NFL picks and going through all kinds of stuff. So they have to take back over. I'm trying to clean up my coffee and I just started cussing. And I didn't drop one F bomb. I dropped probably 12 because I was livid. And my mom was the one that kind of set me straight. And she said, Austin, your teachers listen to this. You have friends that listen to this. You don't know who in the real world is listening to this. Are you really going to go and be a fool on there? You can be a character. You can be mad and upset and play into it, but you do not need to be as vulgar as you were. And I listened to it back, and Nick, I'm not going to lie to you. I have never been more disappointed in myself. So from that day forward, I've never dropped an F-bomb until Lucas and I think Kevin, yeah, it was Lucas and Kevin got under my skin under with brick roads, and I said the F-bomb because they just kept going at me. That one I'm not as mad at. That one I can laugh at because it was just one F-bomb and it slipped up real quick. I didn't purposely do it. And then there was a couple of F-bombs I dropped, but I think it was because of some guy named John, and he kind of deserved it. But no, in all seriousness, that was the one moment in podcasting I regret. I don't regret anything in the radio show. I have gotten political too many times, but in all honesty, that's why I don't talk politics anymore. Like season 3 of the radio show, there'll be no politics. None at all. Steel City,
None.
I'm staying away. Nope. I'm at a point now where I have too many eyes watching me that I do not want to put my political associations or opinions out in the public. I would happily talk them in private, but I just don't feel like it's in the best interest of me or my audience to discuss those topics, especially with how much division there is in our country right now. I want to be a uniting person. I want to be a voice and an ambassador that brings people together, not separate people. And I feel like talking politics is the best way to separate someone. So I'm not doing it.
That's really good to know. I have to remember how many questions have I asked so far? I'm just so invested in this that one, I'm being honored to kind of
Oh,
host this and
of
actually,
course.
you know, be in this chair. I feel like this is like a chair that nobody else gets to do. And I'm like really trying to work hard here. I've lost how many count, but it happens. So maybe this
We'll
is
say
my
we'll say five. We'll say
five.
that was question five. I haven't been keeping track. Maybe you guys are getting a bonus question. Maybe you're losing out on a question. I'm sorry.
Started trying to keep track, and then it's like I got to make sure these questions are hard hitting because
A little sticky note.
that's the journalist I am. All right, next one.
Was it 6 or 5? What are we gonna say?
What do I know?
What are we gonna say? You pick.
I'll just
How
say
many do you
five.
have?
I'll just say
Okay.
five. All
All
right.
right.
You're a manager at Friendly Paws Little. It is your full-time job.
Mhm.
The phone never stops ringing, even when I'm with you. Nikki, Dawn, they talk to you. It's very interesting how the two worlds are colliding. How
Mhm.
you're managing, at a dog daycare, groom, play and all that fun stuff, where you're also building a media career. I've
Mhm.
never actually seen these two worlds collide. And in your case, they are colliding. How has this job taught you about loyalty, knowing, when to listen, knowing when to train, knowing everything? How can these two worlds collide in your case, and what has the outcome been like so far?
Well, it's all about remembering your roots. I actually got the job at Friendly Paws about 3 weeks before I started this podcast. I've been at Friendly Paw Littles now for 3 years, and I gotta say, it is one of my first and only jobs I've really ever had where I had to respond to a higher entity. And I gotta tell you, it's like a family down there. I don't like the narrative that jobs put around saying, oh, we're like a family, we're a welcoming environment. No, I think that's BS on a corporate level. Friendly Paw Littles is different. They're a small business owned by two strong women owners in Courtney and Dawn. Nikki is a phenomenal general manager and has graced me and my good friend Nix to be managers of Friendly Paw Littles. And I would say we have done an incredible job. Friendly Paw Littles is a welcoming environment. It doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your sex, it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter anything. We welcome all folks. We only welcome under 40 pounds and under with dogs. We have a few exceptions here or there, but we're a relatively small dog place. So being able to work hands on with dogs and work hands on with amazing folks and be trusted enough to now be a trainer and train the up and coming staff not only has taught me loyalty in the sense that if I can stick around for 3 years there, I could stick around for 3 years of my podcast or 3 years of schooling or 3 years of friendships. Not only that, it's teaching me customer service skills, which is great within the communication field, which is something we're both really going to school for. We're in the school of comm for a reason. And it's also taught me to be honest, to be open, and to be articulate. Listen, if a dog makes a mess, to me and to you, Nick, that's just okay. The dog took a shit outside. Whoop-de-doo. But to me, I have to analyze that. Okay, wait a minute. Does the dog have a bloody stool? Does the dog have a runny stool? Owners aren't there to watch their dogs. If the dog is bleeding or if a dog has an upset tummy, I got to make sure I report that back to the staff. That's me being articulate. It's no different than me breaking down a football play if you really think about it. Oh, to some people, I'm not saying to you because you're a football expert like me, but to some people, oh, he just threw the football and he dropped it. Well, wait a minute. No, there's more that goes into that drop. He didn't just throw the football and he dropped it. He threw the football in the double coverage. And since there was double coverage, the high safety came in from the flat and knocked it out of his hand while the corner was beat on the out route. You see, there's a that goes into everything. So Friendly Paul Littles has taught me to be as articulate as possible, which I took from something as simple as a dog making a mess and applying that into my everyday skills in which I'm using at Point Park and on this podcast with you right now. And I got to tell you one thing too. The responsibility of being able to run shop essentially down at Friendly Paws has given me more confidence to run this podcast, to run my Day of Giving event, and to run so much other stuff. So, Friendly Paw Littles, although, yes, I'm working with dogs at 6 a.m. versus me calling a live sporting event at 6 p.m., it may seem very different in opposite worlds, but you would be surprised how similar they really are.
Speaking of being yourself as a people person, because given your daily job, what you do in commentary, I'm eager. From all the people that you have interviewed, what is one expected answer from a guest that you actually didn't know that has made you think about your audience, who's really listening to this podcast, how this guest portrays themselves? What was that answer like, and what was that moment like for you?
The answer from the guest or the answer that the audience gave?
The guest that led you to kind of rethink yourself and who this podcast really is, your brand, and how you kind of reshape that brand over the past 3 years.
I'll give you a guess and then I'll give you an answer. So Bill Hillgrove was the guest that really made me think things through because he was the third guest ever in Two Jagoffs history. Third. That's a big name for only your third ever interview. And that was behind Devontae Dean, who I love to death, but I only interviewed for like 7 minutes in a high school. And Caden Warner, who although was one of my best interviews of all time, was only a half hour and it wasn't on camera. It was audio only. It's a Spotify exclusive. So Bill Hillgrove, just getting to know the fact that I had on one of, if not the most legendary voice in Pittsburgh on my podcast on a Zoom call like me and you is having right now, really made me step back and go, wait a minute. Do I have something? Is there really something that could be built upon? But the answer that a guest gave me mid-interview that really made me think and that really made me wonder wasn't necessarily an answer that they gave to a question that I asked. It was the answer they gave at the end of the interview when I thanked them for their time. Because when I thanked them from their time, and I can't give you one particular example, guy, loop in all the interviews. Every guest has given me a similar answer in the sense that they said, Austin, we see what you're doing. We see that you're putting out content. We see that you're making connections. We see that you're doing this. Palace said it best. Derek and Katie said they've noticed it. Andrew Stocky said he's noticed it. Robbie and Smikowski. All the guests that you can think of that came on the podcast took a second to give me that recognition at the end. Because yes, for an hour straight, I made the whole episode about them. I try to put my little life in there here and there, but I wanted to make it about them and their career. So that last 5 minutes, when I say any final words, or would you like to say anything before we end off today's episode? They make that time about me. And my first time really hearing that was actually with Andrew Palace. And when Palace said, Austin, I don't do many, it was this answer. This was the answer that stuck with me. Andrew Palace said, Austin, I don't do many interviews. I don't do podcasts. I really don't do this kind of stuff, but I see something in you. I see your passion. I see your drive and I see your grit. You're a good person. You're not one of the weird wrestling fans. You just want to come and you're just be yourself. You're yourself everywhere. You're the same kid that I saw when you were in high school and elementary school coming to the show as fans. And now you're the same guy here at this event working. Andrew Palace, when he said that, it meant the world to me and it gave me even more confidence going forward.
I don't want to put this in as like another question because I know we're rounding out time, but how did that as a person make you feel going forward and trying to schedule other guests for the near future and making sure these guests are kind of exclusive and they really don't do podcasts? Does that kind of actually make you feel actually amazing about yourself and what you've built and how you build upon that every episode, how you try and make sure you bring up a lot of the other highlights and other moments from
Mhm.
people's career to kind of build that for another guest, making them feel comfortable and getting that out there?
Of course, I am a full endorser of icebreaker questions, making the guests feel comfortable before the episode even starts. I want to talk to them like I would talk to them on the interview, and that makes a smooth transition into the actual conversation at hand. Listen, I'll be lying to you, Nick, if I said I didn't feel good about myself, but I'm gonna stay humble and say that there's more work that could be done. There's more interviews that could be put out. And if you haven't noticed, ever since interviews like Palace and Hillgrove and King, I've gotten that motivation to put out an interview every single Sunday with the exception of this one. So, and there's a reason for that because I got motivation, I got drive, I got grit. And it's because of those kind words from people like Palace. It's because of those kind words from people like yourself. And it's because of the kind words and reception that I've gotten from the amazing fans of Two Jagoffs. I'm very blessed to be in the situation I am right now, and I'm looking forward to having many guests down the line. But I'm going to stay humble and still say that there still is work that can be improved on.
You're across every social media platform, no matter what you're on. You've shared content all across, with LinkedIn being the more professional out of X, Facebook, Instagram, and everything
Mhm.
else. I'm curious, which platform do you actually feel the most yourself on? And what do you think that says about your identity? Because there's a different algorithm and there's a different Austin Cairns kind of niche on LinkedIn versus Instagram, or Instagram versus Facebook. How do you put yourself out there on every social media platform, but making sure that you feel real and actually saying, this is who I am? Which platform kind of makes you feel that way?
I would say Facebook. And the reason why I would say Facebook, and you remember this, Nick, when I first met you, I hated Facebook. I
That
wanted
is
nothing to
true.
do with it. I didn't even have it. And then I made it, and I'm post multiple times a day on there. And that's because Facebook is a community that has a lot of different generations. People from the oldest generation to the newest generation has Facebook. TikTok, I think, is overrated. I hate Snapchat and I don't have it. X, I feel like is a little more controversial, but I respect it. LinkedIn is as professional as it gets, and Instagram is dope for creating content. Same with YouTube. Facebook is where one place that I can truly say I can put content out there fully, exclusively, or slightly. You know what I mean? I don't have to really go all out and put an entire episode on there. I can post little clips here and there and still get good feedback. The thing is, though, you got to be yourself everywhere. Like you said, LinkedIn's a little more professional, so I can't post a picture of me getting flipped off by a wrestler on there, but I can still put a picture of me and a wrestler on there and tie that into the episode that we did. I can still promote my content. I can still promote my brand and who I am. But that's what you got to understand, Nick. It's not even just about putting yourself out there, it's about putting your brand out there because your brand it resembles you as a person. And if you don't have a personal brand, then do you really have any personal traits or attributes that takes you over the top? That's why I always say, getting in this career, you need to learn how to edit. You need to learn how to shoot a demo. You need to learn how to shoot reels and work camera, be behind the scenes. If you want to be on camera and you don't know any role behind the scenes, I'm sorry, you're not making it. It's just as simple as it gets. Because if you don't know those rules and you can't take on the hard work tasks, what makes you think you're going to get into the real world and take on these kind of tasks? This is stuff that we've both sacrificed. This is stuff that it's called getting your foot in the door, Nick. It's called putting in the work, putting in the grind, putting in the hours. And I got to tell you, that is what really makes you who you are today.
I know we're on, getting down on time, so there's going to be some
I
quick.
noticed.
Finish the sentence
Is this
because
the last question or is there one more after this?
one more, because
Okay.
I can hear your voice is starting to get raspy, especially when called beforehand.
It's
If
all
I
those wrestling matches, man.
if I ever lose my voice, I'll blank. And don't tell me, you'll find hot tea, you'll find another mic, you'll get your voice back. If I ever lose my voice, I'll finish the blank. I'll what?
Cry? I'll cry because I lost my voice.
You don't think you would be kind of like desperate to get it back?
If I lost my voice, I would probably slow down and not be as loud because I usually lose my voice when I'm screaming. That's usually the only time I really lose it. I could talk all day and be perfectly fine. I pretty much do that for a living. Thursday night fights recently was rough because it was all upsets and I was screaming the entire show. So that's why I sound a little raspy right now. But no, I will say if I lose my voice, I will do everything in my power to get that voice back.
And last one, your dream is to be a commentator, a mainstream wrestling commentator. Now that AI is approaching, and that is a scary part for humanity, what's one part of that dream that absolutely terrifies you? And how do you keep that fear from shaping who you are who your brand is, who Two Jagoffs is, and beyond.
I'm scared about the people that I'm going to lose along the way. Mainstream wrestling is one of the toughest jobs in life, whether you're a wrestler, a commentator, even a referee. And the reason for that is if you do make it to the WWE or to AEW or to TNA or to any of these major promotions that travel not just across the country, but across the world, you have to sacrifice birthdays. You have to sacrifice holidays. You have to sacrifice weeks on end without your loved ones. And this goes for any broadcasting or news career. You are literally on the road most of your life. You're maybe home 1 to 2 days a week max, if that. I'm willing to go down that path. I'm willing to do everything that I can to make my life into something special and to give back to my community and the folks around me who has helped me get here. But my biggest fear is that I'm not saying anyone specific because I don't think anybody will. Like my parents will be here, my sister will be here, you will be there, Kevin, Lucas, all my friends will be there. But there are people in my life that I'm worried that are going to take offense to it and they're not going to want to be there on the journey with me. Because guess what? Right now is the grind. Eventually is going to be the journey. In the end, though, it's going to be the celebration, celebrating that we made it. Not just me, but the people around me who uplifted me. That's what I'm worried about most. I'm also worried about burning out because burning out is real and I do not want to burn out. I have not been burned out for 3 years straight. There was a brief period where I was a little burnt out. I took a week off and I was fine. So that's another fear. Okay, wait a minute. What if I don't want to do this anymore? Right now, I'm perfectly fine. I could do another episode if I wanted to with you. Probably not because I'm losing my voice, but if I really wanted to, I probably could. But I am scared of that.
All right, there's like about 2 minutes left. How would you rate my first time ever being welcome to the team and also doing questions that nobody's ever asked Austin?
You did an amazing job, Nicholas Brown. Thank you so much for coming on to Jagoffs and hosting today.
And
This
before
will
we
not,
go,
yeah.
there's a very special event Wednesday, October 29th from 5 to 7 p.m. in the Fishbowl. Point Park students are free. It is the Two Jagoffs Live for Day of Giving. And Austin is hoping to raise $350,000. And I'm pretty sure we can probably smash the hell out of that goal.
Oh yeah, baby. We're gonna smash that goal. I'm excited. Nick, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on. And thank you all so much for your flexibility. I apologize that interview Sunday did not happen this week. There will be more interviews to come in the coming weeks. Don't go anywhere, Jagoff Mafia. We're relying on you. But let's all give it up for Nick Brown. Go show him some love on all the socials. He'll be tagged and everything. You know where to find him. Steel City Commuters each and every single week with myself. New Management Podcast with Lucas Coons, the co-host of this podcast as well. He is amazing. He's going to make it big in his career too. And thank you all so much for tuning in to Two Jagoffs. Until next time, we will see you all in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.